Welcome back to the Garth Riley Show, Business Bakery Edition, Part 2 with Ken Wells, talking about, from corporate executive that had gatekeepers that were there to protect him, and he was insulated, and all of us were trying to get through to this guy, and now all of a sudden he's an entrepreneur himself, and now he has to put up with gatekeepers. Dare I say, and a boo-boo.
Yeah, it was tough.
Tell me about that sort of, first of all, when did you realize that you were encountering the people that, the same kind of barriers that were structurally put in for you were now the barriers that you had to go through? What was it like?
Again, it was humbling, I guess is the only word I can really, because again, I was somebody, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I was always a very positive person, right? And if I was going to do something, I was going to do it. There was nothing that was ever going to stop me. That was the kind of person that I was.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, my very first cold call, right? I'll do a very quick thing.
Yeah, go.
Picked up the phone, I called, it was actually a pet company, and the consulting services I had would help companies to reduce their costs. Why don't we just say that? So I called them up, and the guy on the other end of the phone says, "We don't deal with consultants, this is a family business, and we don't talk to your kind." Click. That was my very first phone call, right? And it was a real eye-opener.
What did you do? What did you do at that point in time? Did you phone him back?
No, I didn't call him back. I was stunned. I was stunned, right?
Yeah.
And it took me a little bit to it takes a lot to pick up that phone. There's a guy I know, and he used to have this picture on his phone. It was like a scary picture, right? Because he was terrified of the phone, picking up, making cold calls. But it was tough, and trying to get past that gatekeeper was a real challenge, right? And not getting the calls back. Once you got to the other side, and this is what I realized, is once you got to the other side, I found that people were very open. And they went, "Wow, I never knew there was somebody that could do what you do."
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, well, because I've been out in the hall waiting to get by the gatekeeper, right?
Right.
And like so many others, and you know what? 10 years of having my own business, I've met so many other individuals that have the same problem, right? It's, how do I get my message out? How do I get past that gatekeeper? Because if they do, it works out good for both parties.
Right, because people are bringing a level of expertise to the table, and I've often felt the same way, that I would say, if once I got in front of somebody, they would sit there and go, and I've had this happen for people, because of my various backgrounds and interests and capacities, people would like, "Where have you been?" And like you say, I've been in the hall trying to get past the gatekeeper.
Yep.
Which really speaks well to the fact that we had an old way to do it, but today we have something now called social media.
Yes.
And I think that there really is it's a cracking forward. And when you came up with, when we first met and introduced by Tiffany St. Germain, a good friend of ours, we met at a networking meeting. International Expert Directory, it was that, which is your baby, your entity. It kind of said, look, you can go shopping and find some really cool, really interesting, really vital, some maybe quirky people that have some expertise in what you need, and they may either be local or they could be international. But the internet's changed the game, and since 2005, 2006, this is where social media for Facebook has started coming on to play. So the gatekeeper, while is still there, the executive looking for answers to find innovation or perhaps support need not suffer in this silo any longer, because they can reach out through the internet.
Correct.
But this is something that most executives still are learning, that they have to go, they can go there now and not wait for the channels to open up for them, because it has to go through the purveyor department to something else, that it is actually that much more clear. You set this up, the International Expert Directory, was to give some people, A, it's a platform, and B, for people to go to and say it's a worthy resource.
That's right, and that was the whole inspiration behind it.
Yeah.
Was meeting all these other entrepreneurs and business. I mean, even big businesses were still having problems getting into other big businesses, because they were still that gatekeeper. And there was so many innovative product and services out there, and it's like, how do you kind of bring the two sides together? And that was, again, really the inspiration for the International Expert Directory.
Right.
And when you look at social media, everything is marketing, right? Like all the time, right?
Everything.
And the thing about social media is, for a long time, people kind of got away from it. Or pardon me, didn't really embrace it because they didn't quite understand it.
I would
right?
say even up until like 2 months ago.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
But now it's becoming more and more clear, right? And
Well, let's come back to this for a minute, because we certainly talked about the gatekeepers. Now we want to talk about how social media has changed the game and where you got forced into, saying, okay, well now I got to learn how to search engine optimize because everybody's kind of, yanking my chain. That's what happened to you.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, you found some really cool ways. But now how you're using social media to be this game changer from, I would say, going back to your corporate entity of being the VP of a record labels, to being very insulated, to now saying how this is actually breaking down barriers. Really kind of cool. So we'll be back more with Ken Wells talking about how social media is now playing a role at getting past the gatekeepers. And if the gatekeepers don't look at the social media and they find out that an expert got away because you just decided to be too strong a gatekeeper, I would want to be your employer. We'll be back in a minute.